Thank you for meeting with us, Mr. Ivins.
Sure.
I'm going to start with, who is Ken Ivins and what would make you a good Commissioner of Finance?
Okay. Yes, I'm Ken Ivins. I've lived in the city for 27 years. I raised my family here. My kids are now grown. I've been here with my wife the entire time. In fact, she goes out and helps me campaign. She's actually a registered Democrat, even though I'm a Republican, and she's still out there campaigning for me. And we've got a dog and a granddog. No grandchildren, but a granddog, and who visits on a regular basis. Why I'm qualified is I was the commissioner for 4 years and got out, and a whole bunch of people aren't happy with the job the current commissioner is doing. And so they twisted my arm and asked me to run again, and I took a long time to decide, but decided that, we need a change. And so want to get back in and bring some civility back to the council table.
Yes. Your platform, which is available on ivansforfinance.com, says the #1 priority of the Commissioner of Finance should be the finances of the city. Can you just expand on that?
The current commissioner is all over the place, focusing on a lot of things. She's voted down a number of projects that would bring in recurring revenues to the city. And when I was in there, we lost all kinds of revenue, and the only thing I could focus on was the finances of the city. But that should be the #1 thing the commissioner should be there for. Whenever something comes up, their first question is, what's the financial impact to the voters of the city? And that's what I intend to do, is to bring that back.
Excellent. And what sort of projects has the current commissioner been turning down?
A number of economic development projects, but also something we may talk about a little bit later, the city center garage. She's pushing for a single use that only has a limited amount of income, as opposed to a multi-use that could have a much larger amount of income. She's also voted down the water connection fees that was paid by new users coming onto the system, and now those costs are being shared by all the voters of the city.
I see, thank you. And moving on again to some of the comments you made about the current commissioner. In your August 2nd Reader's Review in the Saratogan, you wrote, anyone who watches our current city council meetings is appalled at the unprofessional behavior of the current commissioner of finance. She continues to wage personal attacks very reminiscent of the council of 8 years ago. What do you mean by that, and can you expand what you mean by the council of 8 years ago?
Yeah, the council of 8 years ago was very contentious, and constant bickering, constant fighting, not really getting the people's work done. They were just all trying to undermine each other and make each other look bad and belittling and so on. And we're back to that. And the Commissioner of Finance now didn't even live in town then. She's only been in town 6 years, so she doesn't even remember that. And that's when I first got in. And a lot of the public were very discouraged with that. It's not being reported in the local paper like it did back then, and so not as many people are as aware of it as they were then. But as a result, the voters made a huge sweep. 3 of the seats all changed, and 2 years after that, another seat changed. So yeah, the voters definitely want to see civility at the table.
Of course. And Commissioner Madigan's current proposed budget includes a teeny tax decrease for property owners. What sorts of things would you do differently if elected finance commissioner?
Actually, another point that goes with that, it's funny, the commissioner is constantly berating me because during my 4 years, we lost 20% of our revenue from VLT money alone, and I had to raise taxes 4% and 8%. What she fails to also mention is that my first term, I also had a 6% tax increase. And her current budget proposal has a negative 0.14%. Well, my last budget going out the door, I had a negative 0.81% reduction of taxes. So she never ever mentions that. She's got a couple of things in there that I would change, but it's all changing again. And we'll talk a little bit later, I think, about the police contract that just came up. But the entire budget is all changed around. She put a lot of money into contingency, and I think she's using some of that. I think she's going to have to use some more reserve money for this police contract. Yeah, her negative 0.4, her original proposal had $750,000 worth of reserve money to get it down to that. If she hadn't used that, it would have been a 4.5% increase. My negative 8%, 8.1%, I didn't have any reserve money going in. I kept expenses down, and she just seems to want to spend, spend, spend.
I see. And can you just explain what reserve money is?
Reserve money is money we've gained over the years. Whenever we have a good year where we get more revenues than expenses, we get monies in, and we can do a number of things with them. We can put them into a special account for special purposes. We could also collect monies specifically through a special tax and put them into a fund for specific purposes if we so desire as well. And sometimes you have what's called unreserved, unappropriated funds. Okay, they're just essentially money sitting there in our savings account. And I put forth when I was there a resolution that the council passed that said that there's a minimum and a maximum. And if you're under that minimum, you got to get up to it. And if you're over that maximum, you have to then do something with that money. My contention is give it back to the taxpayers one way or the other. Her contention is spend it on something else. And that's one big difference we have out there.
And you said she's using this money in the current negotiations for the police contract. Is that correct?
She's using part of it for that. She had put some specifically aside for the police contracts for retro stuff, although I think there's more coming out than she expected. But I haven't been able to see those exact funds yet, so I can't say that absolutely for sure. We're on the police contract. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because that's just something that's come up here in the last couple weeks. Back in April, the council, the mayor brought forth a contract to the council and went into executive session to explain it to the council, and there wasn't a lot of discussion apparently. They came back out to the table, and all of a sudden, 3 of the commissioners had all kinds of questions and objections to the contract the mayor had in front of her. And I could tell by the look on the mayor's face that she was totally shocked and amazed at the questions. They had not been brought to her ahead of time. So essentially they were blindsiding the mayor at the council table, which is no way to run city business. You know, if you've got an issue, talk to the mayor, say, okay, we got a problem with this, we need to renegotiate that, and that should all be done ahead of time, long before it ever comes to a vote. As a result, those 3 commissioners voted down that contract. Fast forward to just a couple weeks ago, or actually shortly before that, the mayor brought in a mediator at a cost to the city. And after that, if that didn't work out, it would go to binding arbitration. The mediator came in on, I believe it was Thursday the 8th, and got the parties together. The police gave up some concessions, and the city came forth with stuff, and they came to an agreement. And Commissioner Matisse, the Public Safety Commissioner, and the mayor were in there, and it all worked out. And the mediator says, before I leave, I want a 3rd commissioner in here to sign the memorandum of understanding. And I think it's actually a memorandum of agreement, I think is what they were actually calling it. So they called in Commissioner Frank, and the 3 of them did sign that. Tuesday the 14th, the Commissioner of Finance had a budget workshop to discuss the proposed budget, and partway through that meeting brought up the police contract. I highly recommend anyone in the public to go watch the council meeting. They can go to the city website and go into the archives of meetings and the October 14th meeting and watch that. The first about 20 minutes actually talks about the budget, and then the rest of it all goes into Commissioner Manigan basically berating everybody about the process. And to a certain degree, she's got a point about the process, but the way she went about it was just totally wrong. She yelled at people, told people to shut up, told people that she had the floor, it was her meeting. She also multiple times said there was no way that she had planned this thing out. The budget was probably going to have to go up, or expenses cut, raising taxes. She also multiple times said there was no way she was going to have for the council meeting last Tuesday to have all the costs associated with this contract. Fast forward a little bit more. Monday morning we had an agenda meeting, and once again the commissioner stood there and said, no, I am not going to have all the costs that are associated with this contract. Okay, fast forward, next night is a council meeting. This was last Tuesday, actually yesterday, since we're recording this now. And all of a sudden the commissioner did an about face. She was no longer yelling at people. She was no longer screaming. She was very nice, very pleasant, a whole different person. And amazingly enough, she had all the cost. Something that she had said multiple times she was not going to do, she had them. And not only that, she found over $1 million to keep the budget at negative 0.1%, 1.14%. So it kind of poses the question, well, if she had that money, why didn't she do something else and collect taxes? Because she didn't totally understand and know this was going to happen now. She had expected it to happen after the first of the year. So somehow she found money. And we don't know where she had it squirreled away, but she found money. And, just be professional. I'm sorry, I got way off your agenda.
Of course, no problem at all. And just for a little context for everyone listening, this is being recorded on October the 21st. So this
Thank you.
The council meeting on the 20th.
The 20th, yes.
Yes, just to get back.
I tried to keep dates in there to keep it all relevant, but yeah.
Oh yes, of course, but just to help you out a little. And then for, in terms of the projects that are being brought before the city council now, and your opinions on them, starting off, what is your opinion on the Saratoga National Golf Course and Resort?
The Saratoga National Golf Course, as a general concept, I'm for it. The idea of bringing in a 5-star hotel, good jobs, a spa, making it a first-rate thing, and the possibility of bringing in a LPGA or a PGA event up there. It's just like bringing Traverse Day with a Triple Crown winner back to town. It goods business sense. It's bringing in good dollars, good tourism money to our city, and as a general concept, I like it and I want to see it happen. But the devil's always in the details. We got to protect our green space. It's being set off the road. There's been some promises made in the past that apparently have not been kept. So we got to work with all that and make sure that we get what we want and we have a win-win-win situation for both the community as well as the golf course.
Excellent, thank you. And another current proposed project is the parking garage downtown. Are you in favor of the larger multi-purpose parking garage or the originally proposed?
My opponent, again, she keeps pushing for the single use, which is going to generate about $70,000 in parking fees in the course of a year. I, on the other hand, want to see more money coming in. I really want to keep taxes down on a regular basis. So yes, I like to see multi-use. Put in retail. And it looks like it's affordable housing for seniors as well as workforce housing. It's also going to generate property tax. Again, the devil's in all the details. We got to look closely at the project as it goes forward. But yeah, why not bring in millions of dollars as opposed to $70,000?
And as you mentioned before, you were previously the Finance Commissioner.
Yes. And
how do you think your previous experience will help if you are elected again?
Well, I was elected in the worst time to be the Finance Commissioner. We lost VLT money. The governor decided that other communities needed it more than we did. So that represented 20% of what we collect in property tax. It was also a recession, so sales tax was down. So I really had to mind the store and look and watch for every penny. And so that gave me a lot of experience in looking at the budget with a fine-tooth comb and finding all the waste. And yeah, we want a good, efficient government. We want to provide services, but I can't stand waste. And because it's the taxpayers' money, and we can take that waste and either do more things with it or give it back to the taxpayers. Have taxes go down. I've been out campaigning now. This is my 5th time around, and I've had little old ladies that I sat on their doorstep and they were crying because they had to choose between paying a school tax bill or their meds that week. Okay, this is a long-time resident of the city, and so yeah, I'm ever mindful of taxes and keeping things down.
Yes, and your platform pretty much hinges upon 3 points. The first one is managing the finances effectively. The second one is civility in city council meetings, and the third one is advocating for the residents of Saratoga Springs. And I think we've touched on the first two quite a lot.
Yes.
If you could just expand on how you would be a strong advocate for the merits
Right.
of the people of Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, I'm calling myself an independent running on the Republican line. I am not endorsed by the Republican Party, and that's a long, long story. But it really makes me freed up to really represent the citizens of this community. Not only that, I did not seek or would have actually asked not to be endorsed by the Saratoga PAC. And as a result, they did endorse my opponent. I believe that I should be here to represent all the residents. She's also taken money from lobbying groups, members of the board of directors of the city center or the project she's pushing forward, and other special interest groups. The firemen have endorsed her. The police have given her $1,500 the last couple of years. Who does she represent? Okay, I'm here just to represent the public. I'm very involved with the community, have been over the years, the housing authority, the north, doing stuff in the North Woods, the dog park on the south end of town. And so, yeah, I'm just a working guy who's out there trying to help the community and help the residents here.
Excellent, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say just in closing?
Boy, I covered a lot of things. We did talk before, get our technical difficulties out of the way this time. The North Woods is one thing I just mentioned, and being here, we're at Skidmore talking to hopefully some students will be listening to this. I've started a project a number of years ago when I was first in office where we started doing work in the North Woods. And that has evolved from the community being involved, doing bridges and water bars and cleanup, to the stewardship actually really taking off and growing. And so now they're doing stuff more than the community. And I'm really excited that they took that on. But I still help them out whenever possible. Like they built a big walkway over one of the wet areas on the trail. And I got a hold of Wally Allardyce of Allardyce Building Supply, who donated all the wood. Not only did he donate the wood, he had it all cut to spec, so all they had to do was lay it down and nail it in place. And so I'm always willing to help them out, find donations for whatever projects they're doing. So, go ahead.
Excellent. And thank you for meeting with us again.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do so. At least I can talk this time. Last time I was sick and was really out of it, but I appreciate you guys doing this. Thanks.
Of course. Thank you.